mindset. This is where it all begins. This is where the magic happens, guys, is in the mind. It happens in the mind. And remember, the mind is not just your brain, okay? The mind is a field of consciousness, okay? So, and remember, there's more than one mind, but, and we'll get into all that later. So, mindset. Mindset is the first and foremost pillar. It has been well noted that success in any endeavor is 90% mental. If you believe it, you can achieve it. It is important to understand how the mind works, okay? The functionality of the subconscious and conscious mind, the ego, and so forth. Now, what you got to understand is you have a conscious mind and you have a subconscious mind, okay? Now, the conscious mind is responsible for about 12% of your daily activities, okay? Write that down, 12%, and then write down 88%. So 12% of your daily activities are things that you consciously do. And 88% of the things that you do every day are autonomic. Okay, remember, we are electrical beings. And that breath you just took, or that sigh that you just made, or your body has 80 to 100 trillion cells. Every function of every cell is going on. You're not having to govern that. Okay? That is all governed through the subconscious mind. Now, when one can master the mind and then use it to one's advantage, true and lasting success and progress is possible. And not only that, guys, but it's inevitable that you succeed. Inevitable. So I want to share with you guys a story, because I believe that a lot of the lessons that I can give you come through the stories that I've learned in my own life. So what I want to share with you first is the story on how I moved to Texas from Los Angeles. Okay. So back in the day, I was living in Los Angeles. You guys know that I moved to Los Angeles area when I was 10 years old. We moved to South Central LA, okay, because my mom was trying to find the cheapest, place that she could find. Here she is with a fresh master's degree, trying to find the cheapest place she could find and live in California, South Central. Now think about it. Back in 1980, South Central was a dangerous place. And that's where I lived, right? So I was living there. I was into a lot of dirt, okay? Like one of my buddies said, man, I wasn't in, because one of my buddies who he's into Jesus just like I am. And he had a friend that used to curse a lot. And every time the guy would curse, he would apologize. Like, oh man, I'm sorry. The dude was like, man, I wasn't raised in the church. I hadn't been in church all my life. I've been around, right? Uncle Knolly's been around. Well, back in the day when I was 18, I was living in Los Angeles, and my uncle came down to visit. I was really ready for something better, okay? Raise your hand if you're ready for something better. Or have you ever been, think back to a time in your life when you were ready for something better. Maybe you even joined Mentorship Masters because you said, man, I'm ready for something better. There's got to be something better. Maybe Knolly has a little something better, right? So I was really ready for something better. And here was the big problem that I had. I didn't have any money, okay? How many of y'all know what broke feels like? Raise your hand if you know what broke. Nobody's ever been broke. If I'm the only one, I got to tell you, I tried broke. I didn't like it. Okay, I tried it, and so at this time I was broke. I didn't have any money, and so a lot of times my students come to me to say, Knolly, but I don't have any money, as if money is the great answer to all problems. Okay, now I do get it that money can be a quick solver for a lot of things, but it's not the only solver, right? We're going to see that. So that was my big problem, and I felt completely vulnerable. And finally, I decided to surrender to God. I just said, look, God, whatever you want, you can have. I'm tired of fighting. Have you ever been to a point where you're just tired of being tired? That's the point I was at. I left home when I was 16 years old. Why? Because I didn't want anybody telling me what to do, okay? And I told my mom the worst thing you can tell a mother. I told her I don't need a mother anymore. That's exactly what I told her. And I left, 16 years old, and I was in the land of anything goes. Okay, I was living with a bunch of buddies. We were all teenagers, and we were living in the lady that owned the house. She was on crack cocaine. I mean, this was low, guys. That's a long time since then, but I just got to tell you the story is exactly how it happened. So it so happened that I was really homeless. Now, I wouldn't have called myself homeless back then, but I was homeless. I didn't have a place to really live. Like the Son of Man had no place to lay his head. And so what happened was I was at my buddy's house, and I was hanging out, and I had the last thing I had was my car. I was sleeping in my car. I would stay with my friend from one friend to another, and I was at my friend's house, and I was upstairs in the apartment, and all the kids in the apartment complex knew me, right? Because there's something about kids, like kids are kind of drawn to me, and so all the kids knew me, and they called me Rubber Dub. That was my affectionate name that they knew me by. Don't I see you laughing, but that was what people knew. They called me Rubber Dub, and so I heard this loud screech, a loud crash, and I was like, "What was that?" It sounded like an explosion. And so I didn't bother to go out and see because I was hanging out, and so all the kids ran upstairs. They said, Rub it up, your car. I said, what's wrong with my car? So I ran downstairs, and there was my car pinned up against another car. Now I had parked along the street, okay, and this drunk driver, okay, he was in a Cadillac or something, and I had this old hoopty, and he had ran into the back of my vehicle, and it looked like a V. Like my vehicle was up off the ground just like his was, but he had pushed the back end of my vehicle all the way up into almost into the driver's seat. That's how badly damaged my car was. It was done. It was totaled. Okay. So here it was about a week after I surrendered everything to God, and then my car is gone. So I have no place to live. Now I got no place to sleep. And I'm like, okay, God, this is how you gonna do me, huh? I turn everything over to you, and now everything's worse. How many times have you ever turned everything over to God and it got worse? You're like, oh man, this is not what I didn't have this in mind. All right. So what happened was my uncle came down just a few weeks later, and he visited, and at this time I had nothing left. He said, boy, you ought to come to Texas. I said, man, I'm not moving to Texas. Here I would now look at me now. I'm all the way. But back then I was an LA boy. So finally I said, you know what? I'll visit Texas, but I'm never moving to Texas. You ever made a promise like that? Man, I'll do that. I've had even some people tell me, man, I'll listen to Uncle Knolly. I'll read his books. I'll watch his videos, but I'm never joining EXP. I've had them tell me that. Okay. And then I watch them on board. Okay. So it happens like that. So have you ever had a situation where you said, man, I'm never doing this, but next thing you know, you found yourself doing it? Well, guess what? I came out to Texas with an overnight bag. Okay. And here's God's honest truth. I never left. I went to Texas with a duffel bag because I wanted an excuse to come back home. I never went back to Los Angeles. I just fell in love with what God had there. But I want to tell you real quick about an incident that happened when I first got to Texas. Real quick, we'll share this. I got real sick, okay? Got real sick, and the doctor said my tonsils needed to come out. So that's what I did. I had my tonsils removed, and everything was cool. I was eating ice cream, doing what the doctor said, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't breathe. I was being suffocated. I was being drowned. Okay. And what was it? Well, I felt like a warm sensation in my throat. Now, this might be a little too much for some people. Okay. I'm just warning you ahead of time. But I felt this warm sensation in my throat, and I couldn't breathe. And what I realized, I woke up in the middle of the night with this, so I'm disoriented. I'm being choked to death. And what I realized was that the sutures that the doctor put in the back of my throat, in the tonsil area, had come undone, and blood was gushing down my throat. Now I know this sounds gross, okay, but I'm just telling you like it happened. Okay, blood was gushing down my throat, and it was in such an area, because the doctor removed my adenoids as well. It was such an area where I could not spit the blood out. It was just rushing down my throat, and I couldn't take a breath. I couldn't breathe. So I started beating on my uncle's door. I'm dying, Uncle, I'm dying. Help me, help me. And I was going, guys. And it was too late to call an ambulance. Too late. There's no way an ambulance would have come there in time I was fading. So my uncle, he sat me down. He said, "Son, breathe, breathe." He got me into a rhythm of breath, and he said, I'm gonna do something with you, and I don't want you to ever tell anybody." Well, he didn't tell me this at the time, but he said, He basically put me down, and this was all happening in slow motion. He said, "Now here's what I want you to do," and he led me through a visualization. Now this is weird, guys. Uncle Nolly, back then it was just little kid Nolly, right? I was dying, and he wants to sit me down and lead me through a visualization. You mean we're going to have one of those moments while But he said, "You got to do this if you want to save your life. You got to do this." I said, "Okay." So I calmed my breath, which slowed down the blood flow. Okay, and he led me through this visualization of visualizing that sort of the blood stopping and becoming a hard ball. He led me through this thing. And so that's exactly what I did. I started visualizing the blood that was gushing down my throat, not allowing me to breathe, okay? And I visualized it turning into like a hard ball. And I got to tell you guys, it's creepy, okay? But that's exactly what happened. Within seconds, that thing coagulated. It became what should have needed surgery and doctor's attention. It instantly happened. It became a clot, okay? And I felt this lump in my throat, felt like a golf ball. I ran downstairs into the toilet, and I mean, this is gross, but I spit up what looked like a golf ball sized blood clot, okay? So through the power of visualization, my life was saved. My life was saved, spared right before my 19th birthday, okay? And I got to tell you, what I found out right then was that belief was the key to opening up this thing that we call the quantum field, okay? This little LA kid, my life was rocked. Now, he sat me down. My uncle sat me down right after that. He said, "You can't ever tell anybody what I did for you." Now, here I am telling the masters. I'm telling you guys what happened. He said, "You can't ever tell anybody this, and you can't practice this, okay? This is a sort of a life or death situation." Now, this is a power that we all have, okay? But my uncle was afraid of it, okay? He was afraid of it, but he needed it when he needed to. I mean, he used it when he needed to. So, what I realized then was I knew that if anything, even my life being saved, if I believed it, it could be manifest. So I learned that at 18 years old. You mean I could visualize, and from what I visualized in my mind, I could manifest in reality? Absolutely yes. Okay, absolutely yes. So what Jesus said was, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Okay. Now, when you look at that scripture, when you really go back in the original, look what he says. Believe that you what? That you have received it, not future tense, but that you have received it. Okay, we've got to step into the feeling of our wish fulfilled. We've got to get the feeling of our wish already filled. You say, "Man, Nolly, I want $1 million." Well, guess what? You should be living right now, today, as if that is already true for you. Okay, you've got to get into the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Okay, so that's what Jesus said. It will be yours.